Canva is all about simplicity. Using our tools should be easy, understanding what our tools do and how they are. We had to reach that balance between what is a simple model for how we're limiting usage of these features, but also protects some of the downside risk. It's such an interesting paradox that we have this, in some cases, almost superhuman AI, and then we're still tripped up by HTML markup. The AI is really good these days, but it's never going to compete with what a talented designer can do curating that content.
Michael from Canva, welcome.
I'm so pleased to be here.
Yeah, awesome to see you again. I always enjoy our conversation, so I've been looking forward to this. Just like a little bit about you, one unique thing, we're going to talk about language and AI today. You're a computational linguist, and we always end up kind of talking about that. What's the origin of your interest in language, and then sort of deciding to make a career out of it?
Yeah, well, you're going to force me into making an embarrassing admission here. I'm one of the few people in localization who didn't come to the industry via another language. I'm a monolingual. It's a dirty word, but I am monolingual. I came to this, to languages and to AI, both in parallel through linguistics. I was studying syntax and typologies of morphology. And I had this love of the diversity of languages and also understanding, where does that diversity come from? Why do we have languages that look the way that they do? So through that, I landed a job in AI, looking at machine translation and text-to-speech and all those kind of cool technologies. Never anticipated that I would land in a role like that. Didn't know it existed when I started studying, but that was kind of my path via a few other things like philosophy and literature as well.
Okay, and you're Canva now, which is I think it's fair to say is a beloved product. Like people just love this product, and you're an OG Canva person. You're what, employee 300 for early on, right?
Like yeah, early hundreds.
So early hundreds, right? And so you've got one tradition you have in the company is you have kind of cartoons on the wall for early people, and you're up there. And I think one unique thing about Canva is at the top leadership level, there's a belief that Canva should be available in lots of languages to people on the internet, and that's what you lead. So what's your mandate about making this product available to everyone, which is not something that can be done without a lot of AI and automation?
Yeah, I think it depends a little bit on who you ask. What my mandate is, I think my team will tell you it's to criticize and to say everything costs too much money. But in terms of what we're trying to achieve, our objective is to, as you said, make Canva available to everyone, regardless of their location, their culture, their ethnicity, their language. That language obviously stands out, and that involves many things. The most obvious thing is our product is available in over 100 languages, which is a lot of languages. Poses its own unique challenges of how to get there. We've also populated our library with millions of languages other than English design templates. We have localized our AI features so that speakers of Swahili or Zulu or Marathi can all use the AI features that we have available in Canva. And it's all in service of this mission of making sure that everyone, as you said, our CEO Mel has this grand vision that preceded me and often goes beyond what I've thought of, this mission of making sure that no one is limited in using Canva.
You've been on this interesting journey where, as early on, making Canva available in a lot of different languages, you used a lot of AI, but it wasn't necessarily self-service. So there are some parts of Canva that I assume you sort of curate and manage the content that gets delivered and used by users. But then you had this big launch of Canva Translate. So enabling users to create things themselves, which is sort of this now moving into kind of a generative wave. So, I mean, how do you think about self-service AI versus using AI as a tool to deliver an experience to customers?
Yeah, there's an interesting content strategy of which localization is just one small part. You mentioned two of the streams that feed into that. We have our localized templates, which LILT has assisted us with for many years now. We have those AI features that allow users to take any template design and create it, recreate it in any language. But there are also, we have a creator stream. So there are people out in the community in most of the markets where we're active, creating content that is more relevant to their peers, their local peers. So all of these content streams kind of come together to serve different niches. We currently use the localized template stream when we have parallel launches across many markets. So last year we launched polls and quizzes. You can now have a poll within a Canva design, and we wanted to launch this simultaneously in many markets. And that's a great use case for having localized templates where we use what you call the self-serve model. But there are infinite niches. This is something that we've learned as we've gone along in Canva, that the tool is so flexible that you really cannot anticipate all the ways in which customers are going to want to use our product. And we think about this in terms of search intents. When someone is searching in Canva for a template, the scale of things, the variety of things that they can be looking for is very close to infinite. So that's where that AI tool really came into things, where we wanted to have a fallback. So we can't possibly anticipate every piece of content and then expand that across the dimension of every market that we're in. And this was kind of the next best thing. And it has the useful, I think, built-in feature as it were. The people see the process of how the content is being generated, and that sets their expectations as well. The AI is really good these days, but it's never going to compete with what a talented designer can do curating that content. So going through the process of generating the design within our tool sets that expectation. People are familiar with how these tools work, and they can judge for themselves whether this is delivering value.
That's an interesting statement you made, that that AI is never going to be able to compete with a talented designer. I assume within Canva, people within Canva use Canva, like you dog food the product. So do you, and then you maybe get to walk down the hall and see how people are using the product. What, with the AI tools that you provide, which are not just text, but you've got some video and some image generation in there now too. Do you see that sort of belief holds up, that the talented designers you have, it augments what they do? Or are they, I've talked to some software engineers who feel like, these products are making me dumber because I don't have to think as much. They kind of, generate things for me, and I can sort of sit here and drink coffee. And I actually don't like that. That makes me not feel good about my, sort of self-worth, I guess. So what's your experience with that?
Yeah, and perhaps I was too strong there. Never going to compete. I don't think we know what the future holds.
Yeah.
But with the current technology, a talented designer is producing something different. I do see people augmenting their workflows and their creative workflows with AI. And that this isn't new. Search is effectively AI. It's been a hugely important factor in Canvas. We have tens of millions, hundreds of millions, perhaps even, of elements in our library. So the intelligence to be able to understand and query and surface the right content, that's been central to the AI efforts here at Canva. And then, you add in tools like something that we've had for many years is our background remover. Again, before the advent of AI, the recent advent of AI.
Right?
Yeah. This was Canva's first investment in AI tools, and it was super successful. It made people's lives so much easier. It was a quality of life improvement. And now we're adding on top of that generative AI, the ability to create images, the ability to create video, the ability to generate text and to alter text in various ways, change the tone of text. And these are absolutely playing into people's creative and professional as well workflows.
So the strategy's kind of changed in the sense that for many years, AI was behind the scenes and delivering things to users that they could then use as design templates, or certainly in search. We've used machine learning in search for a long time. Search works a lot better now in terms of synthesizing information, but search for a long time. Of the things that you've launched, like in the last 2 years, post Gen AI wave, what do you think have been like sort of the biggest wins? And are there any, metrics or any, sort of measure of impacts that you would say, like, we launched this thing and it met or exceeded our expectations for what we thought it was going to do in terms of customer impact or business impact, or however you want to quantify it?
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of internal impact, in terms of attention garnered within Canva, when we launched Magic Studio, which is Canva's creative AI tool platform.
And that's text. It's got generative images. It's got a couple of different modalities in it, right?
That's right. Video, text, images, and other editing tools. When we launched this, we launched it simultaneously in about 30 markets, which was a huge achievement. There was a lot of work behind the scenes to do that. And it was kind of a first. It was the first time that we really had these global launches of features. Sometimes that had happened incidentally in the past, but this was a very deliberate and visible global launch. So that had a lot of internal impact in that it kind of shifted the expectations of what a good launch looks like. But in terms of impact on our customers, which I think is more to the spirit of the question, launching our Translate feature, sometimes internally we call it Magic Translate. This really, again, shifted the bar in terms of the expectations that we can have around these technologies and the impact that it can have on customers, the impact that it can have internally. And we've seen huge uptake, millions of users using this feature. We get a lot of feedback. We have a lot of education users, students in particular, using this to gain access to education materials that they otherwise wouldn't have access to. So that's a great story. It's a motivating story to understand that this is really adding value to people's lives, not just their livelihoods, which is also extremely important, but to see who is using it and the value that they're getting out of it has been really important.
And I remember when you launched that, I think you were up on the stage at like the Canva user conference talking about it. Let's get to the heart of this, the theme of this conversation, which is last mile problems, and what kind of came up in the launch of that you didn't anticipate in terms. I think a lot of times our experiences with AI are consumer oriented in the sense that we have a transactional experience with Google Translate or ChatGPT or whatever else, but getting them into a product that you're going to sell, or for business users internally that have high reliability expectations, you sort of run into this last mile problem. Is there anything you could share that came up in the process of that, or in another project or launch that you did that you had to overcome, and how you did it?
Yeah, it was particularly interesting because it was the first time that this team, our wonderful internationalization team here at Canva, who primarily infrastructure engineers, and they've built our wonderful automations around translation and localization. We got ambitious and we decided to launch a customer-facing feature, which is amazing in and of itself.
So you got production traffic for the first time.
Yeah, exactly. So we had to learn everything. As you mentioned, we were launching this at Canva Create. I was going to be on stage in front of 5,000 people, so there was a little bit of pressure. And yeah, the speed bumps were interesting. So the first one is just the scale of things. So for us as a localization team, 1 million words is that's a significant chunk. 10 million words is a big chunk. And then you think of consumer scale, and all of a sudden you're thinking about billions of tens of billions, and you also don't know. All you know is that you're about to release this to a customer base of, at the time, 150 million customers. That could get interesting. So we had these product questions of, well, okay, how do we think about this in terms of a product? How do we balance the cost of the goods or the services that we're rendering against the value that it's delivering? And we had to think about this on the fly. It wasn't something that our team had ever encountered before. We had to think about who our suppliers were and how to talk to them about the value that we're going to be able to deliver with their products, and again, balancing off the cost of services. And then there was another interesting dimension of thinking about who our customer was, because we as a localization team in an enterprise, we weren't the customer of this product. We weren't going to be using, and this is unreviewed AI translation. So we weren't going to be using this in our big marketing campaigns. We were unlikely to be using it in our product either. So we kind of had to put on a different hat and understand, okay, well, there are customers out there who have different needs, who would get a lot of value from this, and understanding who they are and how we can build the product for them, but also message it in a way that it's clear what value it's meant to be delivering and who it's not suitable for. So I think managing those expectations and grappling with this value proposition of how do these things have costs of goods and services. These things are operating in enormous scales if you're thinking about customer products, and grappling with those questions was new to us, and took a lot of upfront thinking before we could even start to think about the technical implementation of these features.
That brings up one thing that I think often comes up with AI deployments, which is a lot of AI products, even if you're running a model yourself, but if you're buying one from an API provider, you're running one for yourself, they're usage-based models. So they have variable costs for how much they're used. Did you have to get into pricing discussions or unit economic discussions with the teams? Because suddenly you're going to be incurring inference costs in production that are, I would guess, potentially kind of unbounded in terms of like how much the users could use them. So how did you think about that?
Yeah, we did get into those conversations, and there were spreadsheets and conversations with our revenue teams and conversations with our suppliers, and it gets, as you said, the potentially unbounded nature of it gets really complicated.
Yeah.
And you, in particular, we needed to put in some limitations to make sure that we weren't putting out a product that could be abused. But at the same time, Canva is all about simplicity. Using our tools should be easy. Understanding what our tools do and how they are limited and how they're priced should be really easy. So we needed to simplify it as well. So we had to reach that balance between what is a simple model for how we're limiting usage of these features, that also, protects some of that the downside risk in case there is huge uptake.
And I don't think you ended up at least at the initial launch, you didn't end up changing the price overall, I think. So you must have come to a understanding unit economic terms that it made sense.
Yeah, that's right. It was free. We have made some adjustments since then to exactly how we built it into our other AI offerings. But you're exactly right. We came to what we felt was a balanced proposal of what value does this give to
Right.
users, and what does it cost to deliver.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I sent a note to some folks on your team, and they had I said, what are some questions that I should ask Michael? And they sent me a few. So is it all right if I ask you some of those?
Let's hear the questions, Spence.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So you just talked about like AI successes. One of the people asked, what are like the blockers or the key improvements that are needed to deploy more AI features? Like, it seems like Kansas is having success with AI. What's holding you back from doing more? Or what are the sort of key things that you're thinking about that would be unlocks of capabilities or costs or something like that would enable you to do more?
Yeah. In terms of our internal operations, so, creating our own, building Canva's product in multiple languages, I think there are a few barriers. One is understanding the consequences. There's this mythical, unachievable concept in localization of ROI. It's very, very hard to measure, and usually the problem is, well, how do we measure the amazing job that we've done? How do we show people, hey, this is all the value that you delivered? Now it's kind of in reverse, where we're asking, well, how do we quantify the risk of deploying AI in more spaces, and potentially of reducing the human overview? And it's equally hard to do. It's just really, really difficult to measure, and the breadth of things that would need to be measured are really hard. So understanding the impact is a huge barrier, and we've flipped that around to mitigation. In spaces where we can't anticipate exactly what the downside risks are going to be, how do we mitigate them? How do we make sure that they're not disrupting our customer experience? The other side of things, the barriers or blockers, is performance, just the raw performance of AI. And it has improved steadily over the years, and generative AI has added new dimensions to that performance, particularly in language AI. The fluency of content, which has always been the criticism of machine translation, has improved substantially.
Yeah. And all text generation technologies, whether you're generating new text, it doesn't sound like fluent prose.
Yeah, it's a whole new world in that respect, and people, I think it's unfair to Google Translate, but the accusation used to be it sounds like Google Translate, and that's no longer the case. But there are some more mundane challenges, things like accurately using brand terminology. So for ages we've had things like glossaries in localization. AI is pretty good at implementing those, but not perfect. And then things like tag handling, really boring stuff that you would think would have been the first things to be solved, but actually proved to be substantial barriers to doing this stuff. So these are the challenges that we're facing at the moment. I wouldn't call them blockers, because we are working around them. We are finding solutions. But yeah, the two that I would highlight would be understanding the impact so that you can roll out with confidence. And then some of these really mundane challenges that are still posing problems for rolling things out without human review.
Yeah, I think that's a really good one as far as the last mile example for enterprise, which is documents have structure, and so generation technologies have to adhere to that structure, whether it's formatting or, really mundane stuff like filling out forms or markdown pages, and getting all of that working right and reliably is deceptively challenging even today.
Yeah, it's such a interesting paradox that we have this, in some cases, almost superhuman, AI.
Yeah.
And then we're still tripped up by HTML markup. But it's true. And that's the feedback I get from my team when I'm saying, why aren't we doing this? They're pointing to these really quotidian examples of where it doesn't work.
Yeah. So here's one of the other things that they asked, which I think is more of a leadership question, is how do you see generative AI and the rate of change in AI changing the skill requirements or how you coach and train and develop your team?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think we're in a privileged position where we have a few people on our team who are very skilled with AI and have been using AI for, in some cases, 20 years. And those people are able to, I can refer to them. I can shout them out. Simon Hammond is the best example that we have. He worked at Appen before Canva and has a long experience with AI, and he's been upskilling a lot of the people on our team. But I think what is shifting, it depends on the role, but our roles are becoming more technical. You need to be a technical expert to be able to do your job well now. And then, of course, we have all of our language experts, and I think their roles are changing, if anything, more dramatically, where they too need to become more technical, whereas before a lot of their roles would have been explaining to people, hey, this isn't the expectation, here's the new style guide, here are examples of how to do this better. Now their roles are really, well, how can I gather the assets that are relevant to a large language model or to a neural machine translation model? And how can I curate these in a way that's actually going to improve performance over time? And we're all also shifting our role from directly policing quality to measuring quality over time and planning interventions with those assets. So that there's a kind of culture shift at the moment of people who are naturally drawn to this area because they care about cultures, they care about languages, and we need to retain that. That's what makes them good at their jobs. But the actual work that they're doing is becoming a little bit more distant to engaging with linguists or translators or other cultural experts.
Yeah, the example you give or the statement I find striking, which is jobs are becoming more technical. And the example that I would give, which I've had this discussion with my own team many times, was if you and I were professional leaders in 1996, we didn't know how to use email, we didn't know how to use Netscape, probably we didn't know how to type. And there was a whole time in the late 90s where everybody doing knowledge work had to learn how to use the internet, learn how to use email, learn how to type in many cases, learn how to use a calendar. Yeah. And that was like a big, it seems kind of provincial and sort of quaint now to look back on. But now we're in a world where professionals know how to use Gmail, they know how to use Calendar, and they know how to use, dare I say, PowerPoint on talking to you, but PowerPoint or Canva, let's say, and that's like their main tool set. But now they've got to start to learn how to manipulate data, learn how to do analysis, learn how to think about interacting with an intelligent assistant, whether that's some type of a co-pilot or some way of helping them do their job. And I think a lot of people are, worried about that. But maybe it's not so different than 20 or 25 years ago. Obviously, the tools are a lot more powerful, but it's the same type of. I would imagine when people had to learn how to type, that was probably felt like a pretty heavy lift.
Yeah, I bet. And it seems like you can kind of separate people into two different camps. The people who are energized by this, who are like, oh, cool, let's go out and explore and understand these
Right.
things. And people who are kind of resistant or reluctant. They find it so draining to think, oh, I need to learn how to use these new systems. And, whenever they don't work correctly, that's a point of frustration rather than the excitement you get when it unlocks some new value.
Yeah.
Generally, what I'm observing in our team is enthusiasm for these changes. I think our industry is well placed for this because this isn't new to us. We've been through a few different phases of this. And also, I think it's far more deliberate. Like you mentioned, kind of learning to use internet tools for the first time. My recollection of that is that it was very gradual, and it was like, yeah, you're boiling the frog. You didn't really notice it happening. Whereas this is happening so quickly, you can't ignore it. And organizations are doing training around it. There was never any training around how to do your Gmail. So this feels far more deliberate and far more focused. And I think people are managing it better and upskilling much more quickly.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's striking how fast it's happening, and I agree how suddenly companies grasped that there's either a competitive threat or a competitive advantage that needs to be covered off, and have just like rotated so fast onto adopting a new way of working across an entire workforce.
Yeah.
All right, I like to close up with some quick questions. So we'll call these QQs, like we're texting or something.
Okay.
So these are, it's just sort of open-ended. But you lead people. So what's your advice to aspiring leaders? You have people on your team who want to be leaders. People who are out in the world, like, what's your advice today to people who want to be in a leadership position?
Yeah, I think treating it like any other aspect of your craft is really important. It's not something people talk about natural leaders. I don't think they exist. It's something that you focus on. It's something that you think about. It's something that you reflect on, and something that you improve gradually over time. So I think dissolving that distinction between leadership and craft skills or capability is my advice.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It is certainly its own skill set and art form, and one that must be developed and labored at. I've certainly felt that in my own life. What gets you excited about the future? I think like the future is really exciting right now.
Yeah, I'm very excited about the future. I have anxieties as well, but I think the pace of change is extremely exciting, and particularly in an industry where I think change hasn't been quick enough, and where we do have legacies that are not particularly helpful. I think that pace of change is exciting because it suggests that we can move past paradigms that are no longer useful, and that the legacy, the burden of 30 plus years of software localization, which is my particular niche, needn't continue to be a burden.
Yeah, pace of change, and I think in some sense catch up on lots of automation could, in text, we've been exposed to AI technology, really you could argue since like the 1950s. And so it's been an area that people have been around for a long time, as we both have. And but now it really does feel like there's an acceleration in the adoption of technology that certainly was not true before the last 2 years.
Yeah, and my feeling is that it could be a qualitative change. We're not just seeing this quantitative improvement of technologies that are going to plug straight into the same old framework. There seems to be promises of step changes where we could break down things that are no longer helpful.
Agree with that. Okay, Michael, thanks so much for this conversation. This has been super fun.
As always, thank you very much, Spence.